All right, we are recording now. So media literacy standard that we are working on with this, all right, for this entire study of propaganda is that identify and analyze persuasive and propaganda techniques used in visual and verbal messages. We are focusing on propaganda and the visual messages here. So learning target, that's getting tested today. With that propaganda quiz is the critically analyzing Nazi propaganda posters by making inferences using knowledge of colors, symbols, and propaganda techniques, all right? Now remember, when we are making inferences, you have to go to your background knowledge. And Tuesday last week, we built some background knowledge about Hitler, about the Holocaust, about World War II. So it's expected that you pull that information back in. So if you needed to look at that KWL, you could totally do that, okay? But that's the only thing that you could look at for help when we're thinking about that propaganda and how we're defending our explanations here. All right, so moving on along, we're going to go over that exit slip from yesterday to make sure, again, we are all on the same page. So everybody should have that open and ready for you to go. All right, so remember, the first thing that we did was identify. So you have to identify, make observations. So check yours. All right, so Kirsten, can you read on the board what I have down for identify?
Features, blonde hair, fair skin, and striped, mostly yellow, sword and shield.
Swastika.
And then farming in the background.
All right, so again, those were just some observations I made. So when you are taking the quiz and you'll see the propaganda poster, you're just going to make some observations, do a bulleted list of the things that you see, that you observe when we focus on the focusing on those colors and symbols. Then number 2 is when you explain. You just give this brief explanation of those symbols, right? Those colors, those symbols. So you just give a brief explanation, all right? So, Timothy, can you read what I wrote there for the explain?
This poster is letting the Germans know that if they support German programs such as this one, families will not be protected.
Yeah. So just a quick overview. All right. So in brief, basically, what is this about? What is this propaganda poster doing? All right. Explaining that color and symbol. Explaining the use of color and symbol, the basic what's going on here. All right. Then we get to defend. This is where you are defending your explanation. So you're going in depth. This is where that background knowledge is going to come into play. Okay? So, Miranda, can you read the defend for us, please?
The use of daring features in the poster shows the ideas of the perfect face and how it needs to be supported. It shows an Aaron Bull wielding a sword and shield to create alien lovers and children of the picture. The swastika in the background is a reminder of Nazi support of this program. There is also an abundance of revolutionary.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. So, again, we started big. What do we just notice? We do a little more thinking about it, and you explain that poster. So taking into account everything that you've identified, take that into account. What does this mean? Explain to me that poster. Then we defend that explanation. Okay? Give me some more details. Okay? How would a German person perceive this? Okay? And again, that's that background knowledge. Then we get down to number 4, determine. So folks at home, I have launched a poll for you. And so your poll is what propaganda technique is used in the poster. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of you now on. So I see 9 people answering. Those of you in here, we're just going to do an old-fashioned raise your hand if you did this. if you chose this, okay? There are 7 types of propaganda. Which one of those 7 do you think this is? Now, everybody has to participate. This is not I'm just going to sit there and act like I participated. No, because I'll call you out. There's only like 7 of you in here. I can see y'all. All right.
I just
7.
never answered.
I'm like, wait. I know I'm bad at math. I know that. No, okay. All right. If you think it is card stacking, just raise your hand. You can do a little raise your hand as long as I can see it. Folks at home, you should be voting. Only 2 of the 9 of you. Oh, goodness. If you think it is plain folks, raise your hand. Okay. If you think it is glittering generalities, raise your hand. Okay. If you think it is a testimonial, raise your hand. If you think it is transfer, raise your hand. We're getting to the end here, people. If you think it is name calling, raise your hand. If you think it is bandwagon, raise your hand. All right, so I had some people raising hands for bandwagon. The answer is, all right, I'm ending the poll here. The answer is transfer. Transfer is our answer. That is the overwhelming one that we see. Okay, so this is why. The Aryan symbol, as well as using that mother and baby, is effective to try to convince the other Germans to support this positive program, right? So it's that idea. And if you think back to our notes on Thursday last week about propaganda, when I showed you the transfer example from World War II, it had the child on there. And the child is what really puts it over the top, that symbol of innocence and needing help. That's the same idea with a mother and a child, okay? Because if you think back into the 1930s, 1940s, women and children were the ones who needed protected, okay? Women and children, women didn't work outside of the house. They were expected to stay home, and the big brave man at the house was supposed to take care of everything, all right? And so that's why we have the 2 gentlemen in the back for that protection of the innocent mother and child, all right? This is that idea. Again, you got to think, this is back in the 1930s, 1940s, okay? What other symbol leads to that idea of protection? What in here, folks at home and here in class, what other symbol and I'll make it a little bigger. What other symbol in that propaganda leads you to think protection? What do you think? Okay, the swastika, that. Okay, maybe. All right, folks. Well, guys, if you've got your notes open, just go up to slide 7. You'll get to see that picture. What do you think, Sophia? Okay, the shield.
It kind of looks like the yellow makes it kind of like rays of sunshine.
Okay, so we got like some rays of sunshine. We got the shield. Yeah, okay. So protection that way. Good. All right. So this is it. Okay, there we go. This is exactly what you're going to be doing for the quiz. All right. You got to know your propaganda techniques so you can use them down here, obviously. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the quiz. You're going to be analyzing these 3 pieces. Okay, these 3 posters. In the quiz, I have our symbolism notes down here. All right, this is your cheat sheet, and it's going to be in the quiz, all right, for you to see. Things that you need to remember, obviously you're using those success criteria, right? So I expect you to identify patterns in colors and symbols when it comes to Germans and Jews. I expect you to explain those, then defend that explanation of the colors and symbols, and then determine that propaganda type, okay? Now, when we're talking colors, remember, that is not what I wanted to do. Remember, it depends on who's being depicted. if there is a Jewish person as the image on that slide, then if you see yellow, you're going to be thinking what? What are you going to think if you see yellow? If a Jewish person is on there?
Betrayal.
Jealousy. What else did you say? Greed. Okay. Now, if it were a German person, that Aryan person on there, what would the color yellow mean? Yeah. Happy, optimism, hope. Okay. So just kind of think about if it's the Jew on there, right? The Jewish person on there, you're going to go more to those negatives. So like in red, it would be danger and war and violence. Okay. So again, think about that because those colors mean something very specific, but you have to apply it to the correct kind of person being shown. All right. So having said that, everybody now we're done with our exit slip, so you can close that out. And I want you to get to the quiz in Canvas. So go ahead and open that quiz. And we'll walk you through the instructions and expectations here. All right, folks at home, type ready in the comments, or not comments, but in the chat if you have your quiz pulled up and we're ready to go. Jackson, all of your quizzes are like 40 or 50 points. Jackson asked, why is it so many points? All of our quizzes are like 40, 50 points. And this one happens to be 40. All righty, so Javier's ready, Jackson's ready, Adrian's ready. All right, for our first row, you guys ready? Got it pulled up? Everybody over here got it pulled up? Wes got it pulled up? Fantastic. Over here, this group? Good. All right, so success criteria up there, you can see that. Colors and symbols. This cheat sheet is up here. It's at the top. So as you are going through your quiz, you can always scroll up to see it. Okay? We're going to continue on down here. All right, part 1 is matching. Okay? So part 1 is matching. Goodness. So 7 points, 1 point for each. All right? You've got the term on the left. You click on the box, and you get to choose what you think the definition is. Okay? Next, this is where you get into your images. Each image has 4 questions to it. Okay? And they're the 4 things that we've been doing for the past 3 days. So, image number 1, translation, the seed of peace, not dragon's teeth. What do you identify? What do you notice? Okay, you're just doing that bulletin list of what you observe about the poster. What observations? When you're done with that, move down to the next question. Explain the use of colors and symbols. Give the basics. What is this basically showing me? Then you defend that explanation. Give that in depth. So now that you've basically, it means this. Now we're going in. We're adding our background knowledge. Making sure that you let me know exactly what German people would be thinking when looking at this. Okay? And then determine, and that's telling me what propaganda technique. The propaganda technique, and then give an explanation. Okay? So those are those same 4 questions for each of our images. Okay? So image number 2 is this one. And our translation says, before, unemployment, hopelessness, desolation, strikes, lockouts. Today, work, joy, discipline, camaraderie. Give the Fuhrer your vote. So camaraderie is like friendship, and the Fuhrer is Hitler. Okay? So the Fuhrer is Hitler, and camaraderie is that friendship, getting along. And then our last one that you are going to be evaluating, analyzing, okay? And this one says the eternal Jew. That's what we're saying up there, the eternal Jew. And again, identify, explain, defend that explanation, and then tell me that propaganda technique. Okay? You have the rest of the class period to work on it. It is due